Family, it is your boy Lamont Faison, and I'm still in the building with another episode of You Versus Yourself podcast where the truth and you collide. Listen, I'm not going to belabor. I'm not going to mess around today. I'm going to get right to it. I got a special guest, Dr. Gardner. Dr. Gardner has all his credentials, and I'm going to let you hear about his credentials and where he went to school. Why do I lead off like that? Because there's a lot of events that's been happening on social media about individuals perpetrating to be something that they're not. And I don't necessarily need to say the names. We are aware of what's going on in the media. But I do want to talk about it, not necessarily in a judgmental way, but in a way that maybe give us some insight to where that type of thinking comes from or that type of behavior comes from. And I brought Dr. Gardner on because Dr. Gardner has a PhD, but I'm going to back off of that and I'm going to allow him to speak and tell you about his credentials before we actually get into the conversations. So to my audience, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Gardner is in the house.
Pleasure to be with you, Mr. Faison.
Thank you, sir.
Well, let's go back here and identify my credentials. I have a bachelor's degree from Cal State Hayward, which is now Cal State East Bay in kinesiology. I have a master's degree from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas in educational psychology and a PhD from UNLV in the field of educational psychology out of the Department of Counseling and Clinical Studies. My dissertation is housed in UNLV Oasis Research Repository and the Library of Congress.
That's what we want to hear. And so I want to make sure my audience understands that I brought him over here as an expert and somebody who works in the field. And what I want to talk about is it's not just the incident with Cheyenne Bryant that's been in the social media. It's also, I remember a while ago, some LAPD officers getting themselves in trouble. I think that was in 2024, stating that they had degrees and they did not have degrees either. And so looking at that and the behavior, I wanted to know what is the underlying current that's forcing individuals to feel like they have to be something that they're not or to make them feel important. And so I wanted to ask Dr. Gardner about something we call the imposter syndrome. And I would like him to explain what that is and if he believes in some of the cases that exist when you see people operate like that, could that be some of the underlying current and what's going on? So Dr. Gardner, give us your insight, sir.
The imposter syndrome. Having had personal experience with that as an athlete, some of you may know that I was a world-class track and field athlete back in the day and performed as a long jumper, triple jumper, sprinter. My personal experience with the imposter syndrome was one of my first big-time track meets. And I recall this distinctly. It was in the Cow Palace. It used to be a track meet that they held there called San Francisco Examiner Games. Big time track meet. And indoor track meets are a 3-ring circus. As they were introducing the athletes, there was an elite field. There were 6 of us that had been invited to this track meet in the triple jump. And as I'm sitting there, the spotlight came on because the stadium was dark. Spotlight came on us and they started announcing each athlete. And as I recall, the world record holder was there. The British national record holder was there. A host of world record holders was there. And as I'm sitting there, I'm going, wow, what are you doing here? With this group of athletes. And my thoughts didn't linger long, and they quickly went to, if you didn't deserve to be here, you wouldn't have been invited here by the meet promoters. So my thoughts quickly turned to, you deserve to be here because you're one of the best. Obviously, somebody thought you were one of the best. So again, the imposter syndrome is feeling inadequate about what it is, an endeavor that you're embarking on or a field of endeavor that you're in, and feeling that you don't belong, pretty much.
Is that the reason, Doc, that people will try to boost their credibility and add, certain things to their resume without necessarily actually doing those things.
Kind of embellish themselves. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a matter of wanting to be at that level that they think they're supposed to be at.
Hmm.
So and I've noticed that social media has kind of fostered that because you need to, in order to get clicks and likes and whatever, to monetize whatever you're doing on social media, it appears that you have to embellish or go overboard on what your credentials are in order to be accepted as somebody who has some expertise in whatever it is that they're talking about.
Hmm. We see this happening, and again, I mentioned those LAPD officers back in the day, and I thought about something that I did a long time ago, years ago, where I wrote a book called "Unveiling the Mask of the Pretender," and I remember pretending to be something that I wasn't. I was very insecure. I was battling my own issues. If I'm smart enough, I would ask myself questions like that. Are you smart enough, or you're not good enough? Or what are you doing over here with these guys? Or why are you trying to date this girl who graduate with A's, or got A's in her class, and you down here with C's and D's, right? And I remember pretending like I was smarter than what I was. I remember pretending like I was, getting great grades. Oh, well, how you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm studying this and I'm getting good grades in school, and I'm thinking about going to college. I can assure you that I was not thinking about going to college. I hated high school myself at the time, but I pretended to be something that I was not. And I'm wondering, what is the need for the validation there, Doc? Why is the validation so important to individuals who operate in that state?
Again, it's a need to be who you say you are, without having to put in the work, without having to go do the background work so that you can have those receipts as per whatever it is you're supposed to be. And we grow up in this country playing pretend.
Mm.
As kids we play pretend. And again, I think in watching social media, it has um, made it necessary. Social media has made it necessary for us to go overboard and kind of pretend as to being something that we're not in order to monetize who we want to
Mhm.
be. And I
Mhm.
think that monetization has a big piece in it, to again get those clicks, get those likes, so that we can monetize who we are.
I want to make sure my audience understand that I have a choice in this thing. I want to be clear. Social media does not make me lie on my credentials. It does not. I believe there has to be a level of inadequacy there that I'm feeling to make me want to boost myself up to actually fulfill whatever that is that social media may be looking for. But it is a choice.
Yes.
And nobody is making us do anything. But is it the fame? I want the clicks. I want the money. And whatever I have to do, I'll do that.
It's whatever I need to do to get to that level where I want to be, I am willing to do it because who's going to call me on it? And if they do call me on it, I'm sticking with it.
Mhm.
I'm going down with the ship, which I've seen occurring quite a bit here recently.
Mhm.
When you get called on the carpet about it, I'm going down with the ship with that. And from some things that I've just most recently heard, I'm not even going down with the ship. I'm gonna have Jesus Christ, God Almighty Himself, validate my stuff because that's who I'm operating under.
It's interesting that you say that, because that was my next statement, is that we even bring God into it. And I'm trying to figure out, how is God in the author of confusion and the lie that you're telling?
That's the level of acceptance.
you know,
And when I call Lord and Savior Jesus Christ into it, that's supposed to be it. That's supposed to be where the buck stops. You can't ask me no more questions because This is where I'm operating, and I'm operating out of the realm of manhood. I've taken this to a little bit higher level. I'm operating out of the realm of manhood now. So how dare you question me? You dare not question a person's belief system. They can believe what they believe, and it could be right, wrong, or indifferent. But we've gotten to a place where now, how dare you question my belief?
And so you actually bring that belief in so we can get away from the credentials, because
Well,
that's
because
initially what happened.
belief is not truth,
Right.
let me say it
Not
differently.
necessarily true.
Yes, belief
Yeah.
is not fact.
Yes.
And fact is a whole different thing than truth or belief. Now, they
Hmm.
can intermingle with each other, but fact is fact. The fact of the matter is, I do not have these credentials that I've led others to believe that I have,
Hmm.
which is unethical.
Hmm.
Okay. And again, I taught at UNLV, and one of the classes that I taught there was ethics. And
Hmm.
that is grossly unethical to misrepresent yourself in a professional field. You can't misrepresent yourself in the legal field and say I'm
Right.
a lawyer when I'm not. You
Right.
can't misrepresent yourself as an MD when I'm not actually a medical doctor. And you can't misrepresent yourself as a PhD when you haven't done the work uh, to call yourself a PhD, and that's
Yeah.
just fact.
And that is the difference when it comes to ethics, because people who are physicians, licensed therapists, licensed counselors, whatever it is, we do have a code of ethics.
Absolutely
And there's a board. I can't just do and say anything in domestic violence because I'm licensed in the state of Nevada to be a provider.
correct.
So I can't just say what I want to say. And it's interesting because I heard somebody mention, well, Dr. Phil is not a licensed psychologist. Well, he's not a licensed psychologist anymore, but he
Right.
still got his PhD. And
Correct.
that's totally different than saying I am a doctor, or I have a bachelor's, or I have a master's degree, where you don't have that. I'm thinking to myself, how and what's the information that I give to an individual who believes that they need to lie about who they are in order to get ahead? And one thing I will always suggest is, let's go back to your childhood. What happened in your childhood that you believe just being a coach wasn't good enough for you?
Correct. In some people's mind, having a PhD and being a coach is beneath a PhD.
Hmm.
That is in their head. Now, I know coaches who are excellent practitioners
Hmm.
in their field of endeavor and service the community very well, like yourself, for example.
Thank you.
But again, it's like I'm advertising something that I'm not allowed to advertise. Would you settle for Nike knockoffs and you went to buy Nikes? Would you settle for a Louis Vuitton knockoff when you went to buy a Louis Vuitton purse?
Hmm.
Again, even in our community, we ain't having that.
Yeah.
I paid for and I'm expecting to get this Louis Vuitton bag. And
Hmm.
that's not what I paid for.
Right.
So again, that's all day long, even in the wholesale industry. Um, that's fraud,
Hmm.
you know?
I wonder, with all of the backlash over the last few days, especially, how many people will stay and follow? And I'm sure there are some. Me and my guy had a conversation about that. But I want to know, do I really believe the stuff that I'm selling? Because I'm also operating under a lie. I'm also not being authentic in myself, but you're trying to coach others in about their gifts, their talents, and the promise of God. But where is that in you?
That those persons are entrenched in it, you know? I have made myself believe who I am and what I am, and I'm convicted in this to convince others.
Hmm.
And again, that's where they're at. Look, the human brain will believe what we tell it.
Hmm.
And if I tell my brain that I am this enough times, I'll believe that myself and then continue to believe those around me, or have those around me believe in what I'm selling.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's I'm sure in this particular individual's mind, she is who she says she is.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Until you
and,
called out on it.
pardon me.
Until you called out on it, and then you can't back it up. Right.
To the point, from what I understand, and just listening, and since this has been in the media sphere, and just listening, I understand now that she has trademarked herself
Yes.
as quote Dr. So
Doctor.
and so.
Yes. I think I first saw it on the Breakfast Club, and she said at 19 she has several degrees. Now that was shocking to me, because I'm going to tell you, at 19 years old, it takes a while to get these degrees.
Yes.
But my bachelor's, it took me 4 years, and that master's may be another 2 years, and that doctorate degree, depending on what it is, or that PhD, is a few more years, and
Yes.
a dissertation.
Yes.
And you got several degrees at 19?
Yes. Yeah, I find that difficult to believe as well. And again, look, if you have all those degrees under your belt, why would you not want to display them and let those who are questioning know and understand? Yeah, here it is. Because as we talked a little bit off air, somebody asking me for my credentials, here they are.
Yes. Yeah.
No hesitation. I want you to know who I am, how I'm representing myself, and why I'm representing myself in this fashion.
Yeah. First of all, we're proud of it. I mean, let's just keep it real. You go to school and work your butt off and get that freaking degree. We are proud of that. I can't wait to tell you about it.
Absolutely. And
We're proud.
simply because you put the work in, you put the time in to gain this expertise. I am an expert in my field. I put the work in. I had my mama mad at me because I couldn't show up at certain family events, because I was putting in the work.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the program, being able to put that work in and then be responsible for creating a research endeavor or research project.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I find it difficult for, and again, this individual that we're speaking on is not the only one. There's a plethora of folk out there who are identifying themselves as experts and professionals in their field of endeavor. And it saddens me, particularly in the area of mental well-being and mental health care. Because in our community, we've just now begun to embrace therapy and therapeutic practices, and going to seek out therapy and counseling. And to have those in our community undermine that trust, having to undermine that trust that we are just now beginning to have in the mental health community, that saddens me quite a bit.
Yeah, I saw a therapist online was talking, and she said she didn't like it because it kind of hurts our industry. And I don't know if I agree that it hurts our industry, but it should wake people up to ask for credentials.
Yeah.
Right? If anything, that should be alert to say, you know what, let me find out what this person's credentials are before I get involved or pay for services or pay for therapy or counseling. And I think, if nothing else, that alert button should be pressed now. You know what I mean? And I think that's important. A lady called me this morning for anger management. She said, I found you on the internet website. Well, she could see my stuff. It's listed. And I think that's important. And I think as professionals, we may now have to make sure we put emphasis on what we've done and where we've been, because the market, it can be oversaturated with people pretending to have the same expertise and skills as the individuals who have been to school for this thing and have theses been validated, dissertations, had to do the examinations, being challenged by the professors. And here comes someone say, hey, this is me. And you don't have any credentials.
First thing that I do when I take on a new client is to ask them, do you have any familiarity with my background? If not, here's my credentials. Let me introduce myself and the work that I've done and am doing currently.
I think that's awesome. And I think that's where many of us are going to have to go at this point, just to make sure people understand that you are authentic and what you're doing and your credibility is there. I think that's very important. Well, Doc, I appreciate you coming on, sir. But before I do, I want you to mention that book again.
Be in Las Vegas. And again, you don't have to be versed in golf. Golf is just a metaphor for us to introduce therapeutic practices of mindfulness and navigating your day, understanding where my day is going and what I'm going to do with it, emotional literacy, stress management. So yeah, it's just a book. It's a workbook. You can write in it, share your thoughts. It defines terms of therapy and therapeutic practices, as well as golf terms, so that you can have a better understanding of what you're reading. And then there's a reflection part where each and every day you can reflect upon your day and reflect upon how you navigated through your day. If you did that successfully, and if not, what do I need to work on?
Outstanding. Doc, do you do group therapy or one-on-one sessions? What types of therapies do you offer at your business?
Both group and individual. I have practices where I work with combat veterans, and sometimes we work within a group setting, same as family. I work within a family setting, and that can be a group, and we break off into individuals in that family, because the family unit is made up of individuals. So both take place.
All right, outstanding, Doc. Again, I appreciate you coming on You Versus Yourself podcast. And to my audience, y'all already know I'm still in the building. And what do I always say? Being calm is cool.
Thank you for having me, sir.
You got it, sir. I appreciate you.
All right.